That's right. Everyone ready? So thank you for being here. Again, first and foremost, my condolences to the family. We had an unfortunate incident yesterday, a homicide that occurred in our city. As we mentioned, it was a 30-year-old man who was fatally wounded and lost his life. I met with the family, and there's nothing worse than having to deliver those type of news to our family. We don't do these briefings to re-victimize the families, but to make sure that the public is informed about what occurred in our city. I'd also be remiss if I didn't commend the work of the patrol division and the detective division that were able to gather the facts, follow up, interview witnesses, and identify someone that was responsible. Also, I would like to mention that unfortunately, we got the sad news earlier today that the gentleman that was shot on Texas Avenue also lost his life. So detectives did a thorough work on that. We were able to identify somebody. He's in custody, and he will also be charged with murder. So just want to turn over to Major LaPayton for the details on the stabbing that occurred, and he'll take it over from here.
All right, thank you, Chief. So yesterday, about 3 p.m., we were called to Sterling Avenue for a man lying in the street, possible stab wound. Rescue responded, we responded. After the investigation, we found out that this man here and a suspect were in an argument on the first floor of 35 Sterling Ave. And while that argument turned physical, the suspect took out a knife and stabbed the victim several times. The victim then walked out of the house, out the back door, and then collapsed on Judith Street. I believe it was Cranston Rescue that responded and took him to Rhode Island Hospital, where he had passed away from his injuries about 20 minutes later. So we had taken witnesses in from the scene. We began interviewing right away. We had some video on the scene also. And from putting what the witnesses had to say, plus what we could observe, we put out a car that was of interest. Patrol stopped that car about 5 p.m. and inside was a male suspect that we believe was the stabber. So he was taken into the station, and after everyone was questioned, he was charged with the murder of the victim. And the victim, William Sarmiento, he is 30 years old. Lindsay will give you the name of the suspect after, okay? And that's it. Like the Colonel said, you don't want to put something good on something this bad, because it really isn't. But it was hard work by the men and women, and we were able to get somebody off the street quick. And we, as we know, and the mayor, appreciate that from our people. And but the sorrow that the family feels, that we know, and we're well aware of that. And like I said, it's not a good day. Even though there was an arrest and somebody's in jail, it's certainly not a good day. Thank you.
Mayor.
So I also want to express my sympathy to the family of the victim and really the whole community. Every time there's an incident of violent crime, particularly when it ends in a death and it's classified a murder, the immediate family, but friends and every life that life touched, and the concern and heartbreak that the neighborhood and community feels is real. And so I want residents of Providence to know, and certainly the family of the victim to know, that we're doing everything we can to both hold the perpetrators of these crimes accountable, but also to keep our neighborhood safe. And I want to thank and applaud the continued excellent police work of the Providence Police Department. With the death on Texas Avenue, that makes 10 murders this year. We have people charged in 7 of those crimes already. And so we have and continue to have incredibly hardworking men and women in this department who do excellent police work day in and day out to make sure that people who are committing crimes are held accountable, but that's obviously not enough. We need to do more to prevent these crimes from occurring in the first place. The police department has done excellent work this year in taking guns off the street. There's been over 160 guns removed from the streets in Providence this calendar year alone, and yet there remain way too many guns in our community. Despite the fact that Rhode Island has some of the stronger gun laws in the country, it's still way too easy to get a gun. We have made and will continue to make sustained investments in alternatives to policing. I believe strongly that police are central to the effort to make Providence a safer city, but it can't be the only solution, which is why we continue to invest in community partners like the Institute for Nonviolence and other healthy alternatives. We're providing more summer jobs than ever this year. Our recreation and summer camp programs are providing healthy alternatives. But together as a community, we need to continue to work to end this violence, to end a culture where it's okay to settle disputes with knives and guns, and we will continue that work. It's going to be ongoing, but today is a moment to express sorrow and condolences for the family of the victim, and to once again express gratitude for the hard work of the Providence Police Department, who in this case have been able to charge a suspect who will now go through the criminal justice process.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll open up for questions.
Do we have the name of the suspect?
I'm sorry?
Can you give us the name of the suspect, please?
I'll give it to you. It's Yomar, Y-O-M-A-R, Espada, E-S-P-A-D-A. It's E-S-P-A-D-A.
And what's the
He's
age?
27 years old.
And what's the last name of the victim?
Sarmiento, S-A-R-M-I-E-N-T-O.
Do you have a sense of what this dispute is about?
Yeah, we have an idea. I mean, he was staying there. He was staying there for a few days, and it was something that just wasn't that important. That led to a fight that led to a murder. So
The victim was staying in the house?
the suspect
The suspect.
was staying in the victim's apartment. Yep.
Did the suspect have any prior arrest record?
Yes.
Did you recover the weapon?
Yeah, we believe we did.
Are there witnesses or video that in and around that area?
Yeah, we had some video that helped us out, and some witnesses, and that helped us put it together.
Are you able to elaborate on the suspect's prior arrest record?
What's it?
Are you able to elaborate on the suspect's prior arrest record?
Not right now. We'll put it out later.
Do you have a date of birth for that suspect?
Says, excuse me, 12/8/95.
Major, where does this put us, 10 homicides now at the end of July as compared to last year?
I think what was last year, about 3,
So
4?
yeah, we're, compared to last year, we're about 4 to 5 homicides. However, compared to 2021, we were at 12 homicides. And so last year, 2022, I'm trying to confirm, but I'll get you exact. I want to say 4, but there's one that we were looking at that could be 5.
Do you have the date of birth for the victim as well?
9/23/92.
Like,
Update on the fugitive from Dexter Street?
yeah,
Yeah, we're still looking for him.
yeah, John, we're still looking for him, actively looking for him, and we're working with different federal agencies to ensure that we can come up with that person. But I'd like to reiterate with one of the questions that was asked earlier about what led to this, right? So sometimes individuals don't realize the impulsive aggression that they have against others that creates or leads them to severe consequences, which is losing their freedom and end up in prison. And so that many times what occurs in some of our, in some of these incidents is just impulsivity, aggression, violence, and that's what we want to remind the community members that that's going to ruin their freedom, that's going to ruin their life, and it's going to make critical changes on themselves. So it's something to think about, but that's exactly what it was. It was impulsivity and aggression.
Mayor, what do you have to say? There have been several large-scale brawls outside of clubs in the city. Walmart parking lot most recently, a number of arrests and officer hurt. These continue to happen. As the mayor of the city, what would your message be to folks when the police department is understaffed and these are putting people's lives in danger on a continual basis? We see them repeatedly. What's your message to people?
Well, certainly for people who are enjoying the nightlife in Providence, that they need to, they need to behave lawfully and understand that that we will hold folks accountable for lawless and dangerous behavior. And you're right that the police department is understaffed, which is why I fought so hard for additional officers in this year's budget, and appreciate that the city council ultimately funded that. We have a class of officers that will graduate in just a couple of weeks here, and then another class that will have already announced the start of recruitment. We'll be having a press conference next week to kick off the recruitment for. And so the burden that the department is holding right now will be lessened a little bit, but that doesn't mean that we're not policing the city. It just means that it's being done with overtime and asking the hardworking men and women of the department to work extra shifts, sometimes be held over, sometimes be told they have to can't go home to their families yet, which is why it's such an extraordinarily difficult job. The other message I would have specifically with respect to some of this nightclub issues is that the business owner has some responsibility as well. And it is not just the patron or the police who are responsible for maintaining order and behaving appropriately. The business owners themselves have to take responsibility, and I continue to implore the Board of Licenses to act aggressively to hold those business owners accountable so that they take some responsibility. Many, if not most, of our clubs do not have issues. It's irresponsible owners that don't have adequate security plans, that don't serve, who continue to serve folks who shouldn't be served, that have some of these issues. And so, yes, police will make sure that neighborhoods are safe and the patrons are safe, but the business owners also have to take some responsibility, and we have the ability, and we will be holding them accountable through the licensing process if it becomes a chronic problem at any given location.
Colonel, can you talk a little bit about SIP joints? Obviously, those have been in the news recently. We've heard from the mayor about the police department's efforts to go after them more. Can you walk us through why there's a lot of concern over SIP joints?
Well, it's concerned because obviously these are establishments that are not licensed, they're not zoned, and there's overcapacity many times, there's disturbances that occur. And like we had at the beginning of the year, someone lost their life. So it's concerning. So the men and women on the of the patrol division is something that they monitor constantly. Our district commanders, our lieutenants keep an eye on that as well. And they just, they're places that come up 1 week, we shut them down, and they pop up somewhere else. And so we have to have constant proactive policing to identify them and then enforce the law to ensure that we keep an eye on these places so that we don't have the issues that many times come out of these places. So, yeah.
Mayor Smiley, can you give us, we're halfway through the summer now, can you give us an update on the ATV special unit, what successes, what challenges they've had?
Sure. So the community response team, which has been focused on tackling the ATV challenge in the city, has had really excellent success. We're now well over 100 ATVs seized, and has been mentioned in the past, while that was the primary focus to restore some quality of life to the neighborhood and to diminish the concerns that we heard from residents and business owners alike, that team has, in addition to taking illegal bikes off the street, has made multiple gun arrests, has arrested people with outstanding warrants, and has improved the safety of the city as a whole beyond just the ATV issue. I think most residents and business owners are now noticing and reflecting that they don't actually see many ATVs anymore in the city. It certainly has been my experience, and I've been hesitant to kind of overpromise on this, but it is a noticeable change in the city, and I'm really, really proud of the work of the community response team. I appreciate the input of the community, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to ask members of the community to continue to use the ATV tip line. Again, that tip line is not intended for if you see an ATV going down the road right now, if you feel threatened, you should call 911. But this is to help that team know where bikes are being stored, where they're being purchased, if they're refueling at a gas station in your area, so that we can continue to do the proactive work to seize these bikes. And the other thing that's noteworthy, which is why this tip line is so important, is we've been able to make all of these seizures and arrests without incident to either the riders or without incident to the police officers involved, which is why the proactive work of that task force has been so valuable. There is no easy or safe way to arrest a rider when they're on the road. And so by doing it proactively with an investigative lens, we've been able to do it safely to our department and safely to the ATV owners as well.
Will you contemplate issuing some type of report, perhaps after the Labor Day weekend, to provide the public with these type of insights?
We'd be happy to give additional data on how we're doing, and I'm sure there'll be a moment when we report out on the latest update.
Chief,
Yes,
you
John.
and the mayor, if we could just get back to the SIP joints for a moment. Could you respond to, part of the story was that Representative Enrique Sanchez, and one of them, he's in a nightclub at 3 o'clock in the morning. The other one, he's outside one of these places. But he seems to intimate to the police almost that he has, like, the okay to be there. Could you, just your reaction, you and the mayor, to, here's an elected official, and Providence police call him out on it, about an elected official's presence at one of these places.
I mean, I said my statement to the news the other day, as far as my interactions with elected officials is to pretty much about the safety of our city, the quality of life for our city, and what they do on their personal time is not something that I have anything or can make a comment on. So no, by any means did I know anything about that? No, negative, no. So.
Okay.
Mayor, do you want to just touch on that?
Sure. I mean, I've seen the videos, and I think that elected officials, I speak for myself as one, do need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And as it pertains to these SIP joints, in addition to them being illegal, they're very dangerous. And that's why we take them seriously, regardless of who's there. These are unsanctioned after-hour clubs that, in almost all circumstances, there's no fire code, they're overcrowded, there's not clear means of exit in case there were an emergency. We don't know where they are, and so we can't keep people safe if there were an incident. And they have been the site of violent crime this year and in years past. And so whether you're an elected official or not, I would urge Providence residents to not go to these establishments. It is not a safe place to be. And as it pertains to any elected official who might be there, we do need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We cannot go out. I don't feel the need that I can go out and pass regulations or sign laws on behalf of the city of Providence and then don't adhere to them myself. And I think that should be true of every elected official in the city.
All right, Alex has one question.
Just wanted to clarify, as far as your question earlier, is 5. We had 5 homicides last year, and then 12 in 2021.
Actually, 2. Chief, one for you. The disturbance at the Mezza Lounge, there were hundreds of people there. Can you talk quickly about the circumstances with that, and is the patrol officer that was injured doing all right today?
Yeah, the patrol officer is doing all right today, and so yeah, that's something that was presented to the license board, and they're taking that into account. I know that they were closed, and they were supposed to come up on Thursday, correct, David? Correct, and so I don't have the outcome of that, but I'll tell you, again, is the district commander that's in charge of that area. He's fully aware of what occurs on that specific night, which is Thursday nights, and so, you know, we patrol it, we proactively patrol it to ensure that it doesn't escalate to something bigger. And so, yeah, we've had problems in the past. We're fully aware. There was a lot of people, and so we had to utilize a lot of members of the patrol division to take it under control. And so, and we'll continue to monitor, and we'll see what the outcome is from the license board. But yeah, definitely something that I verbally expressed my concerns to the board. So hopefully they're held accountable.
Okay, and Mayor
Right, we have
Smiley.
one more question, and that's going to be a
Yeah,
okay.
Mayor Smiley, your office put out a short time ago an update on PVD Fest with performers, but then also kind of buried the lead a little bit about block parties being allowed back on, at least for the first night of the festival.
Right.
What made you make that change to the festival this year?
Listen, I heard the feedback from the community, and I'm not afraid to say when I got something wrong. And so it was clear when we made the first announcements, I don't know, over a month ago, that many members of the community were sorely disappointed that they weren't going to be able to have parties downtown during the festival, and certainly heard from business owners who were disappointed at the potential loss of revenue from the business that they had seen from the old version. And so, we have very serious concerns that we talked about here today around police staffing and the ability to keep people safe. And so on Saturday night of the festival, when we have both the concerts on the waterfront and a water fire, we simply don't have the police coverage we need to also provide for street closures downtown. But we worked hard with our city services team and with the patrol division here at the Providence Police Department and determined that on Friday night, when there isn't a water fire, that we did have the staffing to be able to allow for block parties and such. And so we promised that we would listen. I try not to be stubborn, and heard from folks that this was something that they really enjoyed, and so made adjustments as necessary. And this was the balance between what we could actually do and feel like we could do safely, but to respond to community feedback that we had heard.
And so is this going to allow open containers in a sense within the confines of the block party?
Yeah, think of it like a beer tent. When you're at one patron's establishment, you'll be able to buy whatever that establishment is selling. But if you choose to leave there and go to a different block party that a different business is running, you will not be able to bring your drink from point A to point B. You have to finish it at the one location, and then you can go buy a second drink at the second location.
Did police want to chime in on PVD Fest and the change that the mayor just made?
I think the mayor just explained it to a T exactly what's going on, and for us is we'll be ready to make sure that that is a great event, just like it's always been, and that he's safe. I mean, mayor's been nothing but supportive for us, and we're the same way. It's a mutual thing, and so we understand, and so it'll be a great thing for the city. So we'll have the capacity to be able to control that. So.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's all right. No worries.
This place is.
These pressers. How you doing, Joe? Good to see you.
Yeah,